Your favorite radio station presents a holiday classic.
Attaboy, Clarence.
The 23rd anniversary edition of Christmas on the Radio.
God bless us, everyone.
Now the 2022 edition of Christmas on the Radio with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Let's spend Christmas with the Aldrich family. Henry Aldrich, originally portrayed by Ezra Stone, took to radio in 1939 and continued until April of 1953. Now, Ezra Stone was not the only Henry Aldrich. Dick Jones played him for a while during World War II, and at the very end of the show, and that's who we're going to hear here as Henry Aldrich, is Bobby Ellis. So let's listen to this Christmas episode of the Aldrich Family from December 21st, 1952.
Henry Aldrich!
Coming, Mother.
Yes, it's the Aldrich Family, transcribed, written by Clifford Goldsmith. The holiday season is always the wide-eyed time of the year for a typical teenage boy. But no matter how wide open his eyes are, he's almost certain to walk right smack into some assorted troubles, especially if he's like Henry Aldrich. The scene opens at the Aldrich breakfast table. The time is morning.
10, 11, 12.
Henry, will you pass the cream, please?
The cream, Mary? Here you are. 12, 13.
Henry, that's the sugar you're passing.
Oh, excuse me, here. 12, 13, 14.
Henry, may I have that piece of toast if you aren't going to eat it?
I'm going to eat it, Mother. Was that 13 or 14?
12.
Now, Sam, don't rattle him. It was 14, dear.
14? Are you sure?
Yes, Henry.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Well, gee whiz.
What's the matter?
Do you know how many Christmas cards I received this time last year?
How many?
According to my records, 35. That shows how times change.
Well, Henry, this is only the day before Christmas. There's one more delivery.
Well, I know, Mother, but all my old standbys are heard from. I can't depend on any new ones coming in.
Henry, are you sure you have the right attitude toward Christmas?
The right attitude, Father? Well, I've got to know where I stand, don't I? I've slipped back to practically 1949.
All right, dear, all right. Eat your cereal.
Yeah, I'm eating it, Mother.
Sam, did we send the Whitmores a card?
The Whitmores? Who are the Whitmores?
Well, don't you remember? We met them on the train coming back from Chicago.
You mean that trip we took way back in 1946?
Yes.
And they're still sending us cards?
Every Christmas. Naturally, we ought to send them one. Henry, are you going to Nancy Adams' party tonight?
What's that, Mary?
The party tonight. Are you going?
Well, I'll tell you, Mary.
Henry, Nancy isn't giving a party on Christmas Eve, is she?
Well, in a way, she's giving it on Christmas Eve.
What do you mean, in a way she is?
Well, Father, I hope you don't think I'm going to walk out of my whole family tonight. You don't have to worry about that.
You mean you're not going, Henry?
Mary, do you have to pin your own brother down like that? I'm just going for a little while.
Why, Henry, we always spend Christmas Eve together as a family, and then go to church together.
Mother, I thought that after we got the tree trimmed, well, naturally we'd want to sit around and rest for a second. And I thought that while we're resting, I'd just race over and say hello to the gang and then come around and meet you at the church.
Oh, you had it all figured out, huh?
Well, I didn't have it figured out exactly. I just thought I'd be prepared if the subject came up.
Well, dear, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but you're not going to any party tonight.
Not even for 12 minutes?
Not even for 2 minutes.
My goodness, Henry, don't you realize tonight is Christmas Eve?
Alice, who are Ed and Bill?
Ed and Bill? Ed and Bill who, dear?
I don't know. This card's just signed Ed and Bill.
Well, isn't that strange?
Mother, is the subject of the party dropped for good?
Yes, dear. Sam, look at this.
At what?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards here from people we haven't sent cards to. And here it is the day before Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Gee whiz, Homer. Where'd you come from? Hello, Mrs. Aldrich.
Good morning, Homer.
Hello, Homer.
Good morning, Homer.
Henry, I've got a very private piece of news for you.
You have?
Gee whiz, is that coffee cake?
Yes, dear. Wouldn't you like to go out in the kitchen and get a plate and have a piece?
Well, no, thank you. I've got my gloves on. I'll just take a piece right here.
Homer, what's that in your coat lapel?
Mistletoe, Mary.
Oh.
Mr. Aldrich, you expecting any telegrams today?
Telegrams?
Because if you are, I'll keep my eyes open for them for you.
Why? Are you working down at the telegraph office?
Well, not yet exactly, Mrs. Aldrich, but I've been talking to them about it. And things may open up at the last minute.
Will you excuse me, please, everybody? Come on, Homer.
Henry, you didn't fold your napkin.
I didn't even unfold it.
Alice, we didn't meet anybody by the name of Ed and Bill at Atlantic City that summer, did we?
Homer, what do you got to tell me?
Gee, I got wonderful news for you, I think.
What about?
Eleanor's going to give you a Christmas present.
Who, me?
Well, sure. I just met her on the street, and she wanted me to ask you to meet her in front of the Centerville gift shop just as soon as you can get there.
Well, gee, what makes you think she's going to give me something?
That's why she wants you to meet her, so you can help her pick out a wallet.
A wallet?
I'm not kidding you, Henry. I swear that's what she told me.
Homer, did Eleanor come right out and say she was going to give it to me?
Well, of course she didn't. I said to her, you mean you're getting it for Henry? And she got all red and embarrassed and said, well, of course not. I'm getting it for my father. But I could tell she was covering up.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And I'm to meet her down at the gift shop, she said?
Well, sure. Just as soon as you can get there.
Hello, is this Toby Smith?
Yes?
Well, this is Eleanor Wentworth. Toby, could you meet me down at the gift shop in the next 15 minutes?
At the Centerville gift shop?
Yes, I'm there now. I want you to help me pick out a wallet.
A wallet? You mean a man's wallet?
Yes, of course, only I don't know anything about that sort of thing.
You mean you're getting...
It's for my father.
For your father. That's a hot one.
Toby, really it is, and I'd love to see what kind you'd pick out.
Well, sure, Eleanor. Oh, boy, I'll be down there in 10 minutes.
Hello?
Hello, Alice. This is Sam.
Yes, dear, where are you?
Down at the office. Do you remember the Mulligans?
The Mulligans?
They live over in Abbott City. What's his first name?
Well, I believe it's Joe.
Joe?
Yes, I'm sure it's Joe.
Then the Mulligans didn't send that card from Ed and Bill. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Mother, will you please take a look at this Christmas card I just got?
Let me see it.
Isn't that embarrassing? I bet it cost 75 cents.
Who's it from, dear?
From Homer. Isn't that embarrassing?
Oh, well, now, I think it was a very nice thing for him to do.
But, Mother, do I have to send one back to him?
Well, of course, Mary. Now, please don't bother me, dear. I've got to wrap up that fruitcake I've been meaning to send Mrs. Hawkins all week.
To Mrs. Hawkins?
Yes, dear. She has 3 boys in the service, and she's all alone this Christmas.
Mother! Mother, where are you?
I'm out here in the kitchen, Henry, and I'm very busy.
Well, I'm very sorry to interrupt you like this, but could I have a talk with you confidentially about something important?
Well, what's happened, dear?
Well, nothing. Only could you please step into the dining room a second? Mary, I don't like to be rude, but this is about Christmas.
Oh, that's all right, Henry. Only I hope you're not going to spend a whole lot on me.
On who? Now, Mary, don't start getting any ideas.
Henry, you'll have to hurry. I haven't more than a minute.
Yes, Mother. Here's what happened. Eleanor Wentworth has given me a $3.95 wallet, plus tax.
What's that?
A wallet. It's made of leather, and it even has a place for my student body.
For your what?
My student body card. That's in case if I'm in an accident, people will know who I am.
Well, now, just 1 minute, dear. Suppose you calm down and tell me very slowly what it is that happened.
But, Mother, there's no time to lose. I've got to have $4.
What for?
Well, don't you understand? I've got to give Eleanor a present just as good as the one she's giving me, haven't I?
Well, frankly, Henry, if Eleanor at her age wants to spend money on presents for boys, it's none of my business. But I don't believe I have $4 to give you to buy her anything.
But, Mother, what am I going to do about Toby Smith?
What's that?
Well, Toby Smith was down there, too, putting his 2 cents worth because he thinks the wallet's for him. And Eleanor pointed out something that she's crazy about. And it costs $4. And if I don't beat him to it, he'll get it first. And then won't I look like a fool?
Henry, if you have $4 of your own, that's something else. But I really don't think I should give it to you.
Mother, will you please look at what I just discovered? I'm certainly not going to send a card to Homer.
Why not, Mary?
Look, Mother, I held the card he sent me under a very strong light, and look at what's been erased on it. I hope you like your gun. Love, Aunt Bess.
Well, dear, Homer was probably just cutting down expenses.
Mary, could you step into the living room while I have a confidential talk with you for a second?
What about?
Christmas.
Oh, you want some advice?
Mary, do you remember what it was I was going to do just as Henry came in?
No, Mother. Well, Henry?
Do you know Toby Smith?
Yes.
Do you like him?
Henry, I can't stand him.
Mary, I'm sure glad to hear you say that. Could you lend me $4?
$4?
Well, look, Mary, if I don't give Eleanor more than a 25-cent handkerchief, I'll never be able to walk on a public street again. And I know just exactly what she wants.
What?
Well, she pointed it out in the gift shop. She said it was about the nicest thing she'd ever seen.
What was it?
Mary, haven't you even been listening? A Christmas tree that lights up.
A what?
To wear on the lapel of your coat. It's a pin, see, and it has a little battery in it.
Really?
Sure, and it's only $4. And they've only got one left.
But, Henry, you already owe me money.
Hey, Henry!
Gee whiz, Homer, where are you?
Boy, I think I'm going to get that job delivering telegrams this afternoon.
Oh, that's fine. Listen, Mary.
Hello, Mary.
Hello, Homer.
Did you... Have the mails been coming through all right today?
Yes.
Well, how do you feel?
I feel just fine.
Oh.
Homer, what is it you want?
Listen, did you know Toby Smith is taking Eleanor to the party tonight?
You're crazy. Who told you that?
Toby did. I met him just a little while ago on his way home. He had to get some money to buy something.
Mary, do you hear that? Haven't you got any family pride?
Which counter is it at, Henry?
It's right over here, Homer. Oh, mister.
Something I can do for you, young man?
Yes, sir. I came back to get the tree.
What's that?
The Christmas tree that lights up.
Oh, yes, we do have a nice one here in the store this year, haven't we?
I guess he's hard of hearing, Henry. No, the little Christmas tree.
The what?
Don't you remember the little Christmas tree that surprises you when it lights up?
Oh, you mean the pin?
Sure, I finally got the $4 for it.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's just been sold.
What's that? It's been sold?
Less than 10 minutes ago.
Well, that's a fine thing. After I promised to make my sister's bed every morning for a month as compound interest.
I'm sorry, sir.
Hey, look, Henry, how about getting Eleanor just a straight flashlight? Boy, I saw one that's so powerful it'll blind her.
Homer, what would she do with a flashlight?
Well, I know darn well I'd like it.
Mister, are you positive that pin's been sold?
Well, there's the clerk over there who made the sale. She might even be able to tell you who bought it.
Oh, I know who bought it. I just don't see how he got down here so fast. And Eleanor said herself it's the only pin she's ever seen she really likes.
Hey, mister.
Gee whiz, Toby, what are you doing back here?
Mister, how about that Christmas tree that lights up like a pin? I mean, well, you know what I mean.
I beg your pardon?
The pin.
I'm sorry, young man, but that pin's been sold.
It's been sold? Yeah? Oh, now listen, Henry.
Gee whiz, Toby, you mean you didn't buy it?
Now listen, Henry, I'm supposed to get that for Eleanor. Hand it over.
Hand what over? I haven't got it.
Toby, stop pushing, Henry.
That's what I say.
Listen, Homer Brown, did you buy it?
Hey!
Now listen, Toby.
Now, wait a minute, boys. Wait a minute. Be careful of that peace on earth sign.
Hello?
Hello, Sam Aldrich speaking.
Oh, hello, Sam. This is Alice.
Yeah?
Didn't you room with someone at Princeton by that name?
By what name?
Ed or Bill?
He didn't have both names. Anyhow, we called him Murph.
Oh. Well, the reason I called, dear, is to ask what we ought to do about Homer.
Homer, what's happened to him?
Well, he was here just a little while ago, and after he left, I found a card on the living room table addressed to me.
Yes?
Well, he's apparently saving postage. Don't you think I ought to give him something rather nice?
All right. How about one of your fruitcakes?
Sam, that reminds me. Don't let me forget to send Mrs. Hawkins that fruitcake.
That's a nice idea. No one in town I'd rather remember. She's got 3 sons in the service.
That's the way I feel.
And Alice, it's starting to snow pretty hard. Tell Henry he'd better start shoveling.
Well, Henry isn't here right now.
Well, when he comes in, tell him.
All right, dear. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Mother!
Yes, Henry?
I've got to ask you something.
Dear, your father wants you to keep the walks cleared of snow.
Sure, Mother, but listen. Who could this be? She's a lady, see? She's a lady.
What's that?
Well, now wait, Mother. She's a lady about so high, see, and she wears a black coat with a black fur collar. Who is she?
Henry, what are you talking about?
Who is she, Mother? Who is she? I've got to know.
Is this a game, Henry?
A game? Mother, my whole Christmas is at stake. She's my only clue.
Henry, I can't possibly know who you're talking about.
Well, gee whiz, you know all the ladies in town. Now listen very carefully. She comes up to here on me, see? She wears a black coat with fur cuffs.
I thought you said a fur collar.
I did? Sure. And she's not very heavy. She weighs maybe... Well, you know, Mrs. Brown?
Yes?
Well, she isn't like that at all, but that'll give you an idea. And she wears her eyeglasses on a chain.
Oh, my goodness. Henry, why do you have to know the answer?
She's got the tree. She's got the tree.
Whose tree?
My tree that I'm giving Eleanor.
What's that?
She got there ahead of Toby and me, don't you see? The clerk described her to me, and I got to find her and make her an offer.
She wears her glasses on a chain, and she's about so high.
And fur on her coat.
Well, the only person that reminds me of is Mrs. Kittinger.
Mrs. Kittinger? Gee whiz, why didn't I think of her? I'll go right over.
Now, wait a minute, Henry. It might just possibly be Mrs. Tarbell.
Mrs. Tarbell? Sure, that sounds like Mrs. Tarbell. I'll go right over.
No, wait. I just thought of someone else who wears her glasses on her chain.
A woman?
Oh, yes, of course, Miss Perkins.
Miss Perkins? All right, I'll try Miss Perkins, Mrs. Tarbell, and Mrs. Kittinger.
And don't forget the front wall.
No, I won't, Mother. Just as soon as I've taken care of this. Goodbye.
Henry, I thought of someone else. Henry!
Hello there, Henry Aldrich. Won't you step inside?
No, thanks, Mrs. Kittinger. I'll only get snow all over your rug.
Oh, my goodness, look at the snow. Well, what can I do for you, Henry?
Well, first, do you have a coat with fur on it?
Why, not to give away, Henry.
No, I was just wondering. I thought you wore glasses.
Why, I do sometimes. Did your mother send you over?
Well, in a way, she did. Were you down at the gift shop this morning?
Yes, I was.
Well, did you make a purchase there?
Yes, of course. As a matter of fact, it was very foolish of me to wait until the last minute. There was hardly anything left.
I'll say.
Henry, just what was it you wanted?
Nothing. Gee, your walk certainly needs shoveling, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm afraid it does.
Well, Mrs. Kittinger, if you have a shovel, I'd be very glad to clean it off for you.
Well, now, that's very thoughtful of you, Henry. And I'd be glad to pay you.
Oh, no, I wouldn't take any money from you. But when I get through, Mrs. Kittinger, you're going to be around, aren't you?
Yes.
Because I want to have a little talk with you.
Why, Henry Aldrich.
How do you do, Mrs. Tarbell? Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you.
Well, I'm sure glad to see you're wearing your glasses on a chain.
What's that?
Boy, did I make a mistake over at Mrs. Kittinger's. She wears them, but they're not on a chain. And that's where I got off on the wrong foot.
Henry, didn't I see you just as I was leaving the gift shop this morning?
Did you?
Yes, I'm sure I did.
Mrs. Tarbell, how would you like to have your walk cleaned?
We'll return to the Aldrich family in just a moment.
I mentioned the original Ezra Stone as Henry Aldrich, and then I mentioned very briefly Dick Jones. I failed to mention Raymond Ives, who played him for the rest of World War II, but Norman Toklar succeeding Stone as Henry Aldrich for 2 seasons. He's best known for his work directing Leave It to Beaver. And it's thought his approach of telling the stories from the vantage point of a child may have been inspired by the similar implications in many Henry Aldrich shows, many Aldrich family shows. He also wrote many of the Aldrich episodes. So there you go. December 21st, 1952, the Aldrich family here on Christmas on the Radio with Wyatt Cox. Brought to you in part by Medishare.
So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for healthcare. And here's why. Not only is it open enrollment for a lot of people, it's also a time you can join Medishare and save even more than usual. And it's true, the typical family switching to Medishare saves $500 or more a month, which is obviously huge for a lot of people. But what's more, they like it. Medishare has double the customer satisfaction rate compared to health insurance. Double. There are 400,000 members. They've shared over $4 billion in medical bills, and it really is a great community, too. People encourage and pray for each other. And here's the thing. If you join Medishare Complete right now, they'll waive your new member fees, and you'll save an additional 10% off all of 2023. That's right. No fee to join, 10% off every month of next year, but it's a very limited time offer. You have to sign up before December 31st. Great savings, great health care. Find out more. Call now. 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Christmas on the Radio, and I'm Wyatt Cox. Now more of the Aldrich family, December 21st, 1952.
Now, getting back to the troubles of Henry Aldrich. Well, so far this Christmas, Henry's one purpose is to catch up with the lady who bought the only pin of its kind in town a pin that cost $4 and that looks like a small Christmas tree, which Eleanor said she'd just love to have if anyone wanted to give her anything. The scene opens in the Aldrich living room.
Sam, are you home?
I am. I thought I sent word for Henry to clean off our walk.
Well, dear, I asked him to, but he went out and he hasn't come back since.
Ah, and look at me. I had to wade through a drift up to my knees.
Well, you go right up and change your clothes.
What gotten into that boy? You can take time to shovel other people's walks, but not ours.
Why do you say that?
Miss Perkins stopped me on the street on the way home and told me how nice it was of Henry to come over and clean her walk.
Well, my goodness.
Oh, and here, see whether you can figure these Christmas cards out. One is signed Ida and one is signed Van.
Ida? I never heard of Ida.
Well, who's Van?
Well, that isn't the point, dear. But why would any Ida be sending you a card at the office?
I'm going up and soak my feet.
Hello?
This is Western Union calling. Is Henry Aldrich there?
No, he isn't. Do you have a telegram for him?
No, I just wanted to say hello.
Who is this?
It's Homer. I got the job. Goodbye.
What's that?
Mother, I have that fruitcake ready for Mrs. Hawkins.
You have, Mary? Sam!
Yes, Alice?
Have you started to soak yet?
What?
Well, my gracious. Christmas is always like this. Hello?
Is this Miss Aldrich?
Yes?
This is Mrs. Kittinger. I just wanted to call and tell you how nice it was of you to send Henry over.
What's that?
I say it was so sweet of you to send Henry over to clean my walk.
Oh. Oh, did he clean yours, too?
Yes, he did a perfect job, and he wouldn't take a cent. All he wanted to do was come in and look at the presents I'm giving.
What's that?
All right, Alice. What is it you want?
Merry Christmas, Mrs. Aldrich.
Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Sam, what are you doing down here in your bare feet?
You asked me to come down. What do you want?
Oh. Oh, well, I was going to ask you to take that fruitcake over to Mrs. Hawkins, but I guess it will have to wait.
But I'm down here now.
No, dear, you go right back up and soak.
Hey, Henry, isn't that you?
Sure, Homer. What is it you want?
Oh, come on with me while I deliver a couple of telegrams.
Gee whiz, I'm tired. I'm going home.
It's only a few blocks out of your way.
Homer, look at me. My feet are wet. I haven't had any lunch.
Boy, what have you been doing?
I've been shoveling every walk in town. Boy, did my mother double-cross me.
Yeah, but look, Henry, my first stop is Mrs. Hawkins, just 3 doors down the street. I'll even let you borrow one of my gloves. Here, take the right one. I carry my telegrams in the left one.
Thanks.
Hey, one of the telegrams I've got is a war message.
A what?
Sure, it's from John Hawkins to his mother. He's in an army camp down in Texas.
I thought John Hawkins was in Korea.
No, his 2 brothers are in Korea. Now, here's the house right here.
And that's a war message you have for her?
Well, sure. John says he's very sorry, but he wasn't able to get a furlough to come home. And he's also sorry he and his brothers can't all be here tonight to spend an old-fashioned Christmas with their mother.
Yeah?
And then he wishes her a Merry Christmas.
Homer, I thought you weren't supposed to read confidential messages.
Well, she was I haven't read you the message, Henry. Besides, everybody will know about it tomorrow.
Oh, how do you do, boys?
How do you do, Mrs. Hawkins? A telegram.
For me? Won't you step in while I see whether it needs an answer?
Okay. Only I don't think you'll find it does, Mrs. Hawkins.
No?
From December 21st, 1952, The Aldrich Family. I'm Wyatt Cox. You're listening to Christmas on the Radio.
Christmas on the Radio continues, now with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Now the conclusion of The Aldrich Family, December 21st, 1952.
Now let me see if I can get my glasses untangled. This chain is always catching on something.
Can I help you untangle it?
No, thank you. I have it.
Mrs. Hawkins!
I'll be there in just 1 minute.
Gee whiz, Homer, that sounds like Toby Smith in the living room.
Mrs. Hawkins, this is it, all right. I'll pay you $4 for it. Toby, what are you doing here?
Hey, look, Homer, they're on a chain.
What?
The glasses. Now listen, Toby, you can't have that pin.
Get away, Henry.
Now listen, Toby.
Henry, don't let him push you like that.
Boys, look out for that angel.
Now listen, Henry.
There, darn you.
Hey!
Boys, watch the door.
Well, gee whiz.
Sam, would you mind putting another log on the fire, please?
That's just what I'm going to do.
My goodness, but it's an awful night out. You ought to look out the window, Mother. I've never seen so much snow on Christmas Eve.
Mary, straighten that piece of holly that's hanging right over your father.
All right. Hold still, Father.
I can't lift the log and hold still, too.
Dear, look out for the sparks.
They're all right.
Mary, when Henry came a while ago, exactly what did he say?
He just asked whether you and Father were in, and I said no, you'd gone out to do some shopping, and then he ran upstairs. And when he came down, he had his best suit on.
And that's all he said?
Well, he said to tell you he finally straightened out the whole problem of Eleanor's present, and that he was in an awful hurry to get down to the glass cutters, and something about a party.
Sam, what do you think we ought to do?
Phone wherever the party is and tell him to come home.
Now, dear, we aren't going to do anything like that.
Didn't you explain to Henry that we always spend Christmas Eve together, as all families do?
Dear, if Henry doesn't want to spend this evening with us, it's something I'm not going to force him to do.
Mother, don't you think he ought to be punished?
Mary, dear, will you go out to the kitchen and get that big bowl of fruit and nuts out there?
Yes, Mother.
Cheer up, Alice. He'll be along shortly.
Sam, I'm afraid Henry doesn't even begin to know what Christmas really means. The one thing he's thought about all day is himself and that present he wanted to get Eleanor. That's the only thing that's meant anything to him. He didn't shovel the walk. He didn't get the cellar window fixed. Oh, my goodness, Sam. That reminds me. You didn't get that fruitcake over to Mrs. Hawkins.
Well, how could I, Alice? I had to go out and shovel the walk for Henry.
Oh, I know, dear. But here it is Christmas Eve and Mrs. Hawkins. Well, of all the people in this town, we should have sent one to...
All right, Alice, all right. I'll take it over first thing tomorrow.
Well, can't we take it over now?
Tonight in this storm?
Well, we could certainly drop it off on the way to church, can't we?
Alice, I realize Mrs. Hawkins misses her boys like everything, but the church is in one direction and the Hawkins house is in the other. It's snowing to beat the band. I'll take it over first thing tomorrow.
Very well.
Incidentally, I wonder how the Hawkins boys are getting along.
Well, I understand she hears from them quite often.
Yes, there was always one thing about them. They were devoted to their mother.
Yes.
Alice, don't cry. I didn't mean it that way.
I'm not crying.
Here's the bowl of fruit and nuts, Mother. Will you have some?
No, dear. What would I want with any fruit and nuts?
Why, it's Christmas Eve. Father?
I'm not hungry, Mary.
What's the matter? I thought you wanted me to bring them in.
We did, dear. Just put them down there on the table where they'll look Christmassy.
Oh.
And light the candles on the piano just as though... Dear, where are you going?
I'm going to phone Henry and tell him to leave that party and come home.
Sam Aldrich, I don't want you to.
But, Mother, if Father doesn't, Henry won't even be here to go to church with us.
Now, Henry knows we're going. If he isn't here by then, we'll go alone.
When they had heard the king, they departed. And lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. Let us all rise while we sing, We Three Kings of Orient Are.
Sam.
Yes, Alice.
Sam, look.
Where?
Just 3 rows ahead. It's Mrs. Hawkins.
Yeah? You mean we should have brought the fruitcake with us?
No, dear. Look who's with her.
My goodness, Mother, look. Have the 3 Hawkins boys come home?
No, Mary. Can't you see who that is with her? It's Henry and Homer and Toby. Sam, just look at Henry. I've never seen him look so nice.
Alice, I've just remembered who Ed and Bill are. They're Mrs. Hawkins' 2 sons in Korea.
One of the brightest futures open today is ready for the girl who chooses nursing as her profession. You'll receive a professional education. You'll work with doctors and professional people. You'll associate with the finest citizens in the community. What's especially important, you'll be serving humanity and be ready to serve your country in time of emergency. You can join this hand-picked group of young women if you're a high school graduate or a college student of good health and character. Talk it over with your school advisor, or go to your nearest hospital today and ask how you can become a nurse. The Aldrich Family is transcribed as written by Clifford Goldsmith. Henry is played by Bobby Ellis and Homer by Jack Grimes. Mr. and Mrs. Aldrich are House Jameson and Barbara Robbins. Your announcer is Dick Dudley. Listen again next week, same time, same station, for another sparkling half hour with the Aldrich Family.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Many of the scripts of the last couple of seasons of The Aldrich Family were direct reproductions with minor editing of shows from the 40s. So you heard it, just with different people. Henry Aldrich and the Adventures of the Aldrich Family on Christmas on the Radio. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
And here's the Cinnamon Bear.
The oldest known children's Christmas serial in radio history, The Cinnamon Bear, featuring some of the most popular actors in radio history, including Elliot Lewis, Joseph Kearns, Verna Felton, Lou Merrill, Frank Nelson, Howard McNear, and child actress Barbara Jean Wong. 85 years later, this series of Judy and Jimmy traveling to Maybeland to recover their silver star still fascinates youngsters of all ages. Now we're offering the entire 26-episode series of The Cinnamon Bear via download for a Buy Me a Coffee donation of $10 or more at classicradio.stream. Support Classic Radio Theater and have The Cinnamon Bear for your family to enjoy for years to come. Go to classicradio.stream and donate $10 or more, and I'll send you a link for immediate download. classicradio.stream. Now, a program called the Coronet Little Show. This was during World War II, December 19th, 1943. This episode, the ever-popular Gift of the Magi.
The Coronet Little Show. The Coronet Little Show. Presenting fact and fiction, dramatized by the Coronet Storyteller. Today we are going back to a Christmas Eve in the 19th century. O. Henry's story of the true Christmas spirit, of love and sacrifice, the gift of the Magi, will be brought to you in just a moment by the Coronet Storyteller. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time. Della counted it for the third time.
$1.84, $1.85, $1.86, $1.87.
It was still the same. And the next day would be Christmas. $1.87 with which to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it. While Della's sniffles are gradually subsiding, take a look at the vestibule below, where you will see on the letterbox a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity, when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred, as though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young. That's Della. She has now finished her cry and is looking into the pier glass, attending to her cheeks with a powder rag. Suddenly, as she stands before the glass, she pulls down her hair and lets it fall to its full length. Now, there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair, which now ripples about her, shining like a cascade of brown waters and reaching below her knee. Her eyes are brilliant, but her face has lost its color. Nervously and quickly, she does her hair up again, slips into her old brown jacket, puts on her old brown hat, and in the twinkling of an eye, she is halfway down the stairs and out on the street. Della has a determined, almost desperate look as she sights a sign reading Madame Sofroni, hair goods of all kinds. She stops quickly, then opens the door, which leads to a flight of stairs. Della rushes panting up the stairs and plumb into the portly figure of Madame Sofroni.
Will you buy my hair?
I buy hair? Take your hat off. Let's have a sight at the looks of it.
Down ripples the brown cascade.
$20.
All right. Only quickly, please.
In a few moments, the implacable Madame Sofroni and her scissors have done the job. And Della, minus her hair, but richer by $20, flees from the store into the street again. This time she's looking for a different store, a store in which to buy, not to sell. At last she finds herself in a department store in the midst of a gay holiday throng. At the jewelry counter, as she longingly handles a platinum chain, she hesitantly asks,
You did say $21, didn't you? Yes, that's what I thought.
This is it. This is the present just made for Jim and no one else. There's no other like it in any of the stores. She knows, for she turned all of them inside out. It's a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design. Della has made her mind up.
I'll take it.
With the chain wrapped in a holiday box and clutched in her eager hand, Della finds herself again out on the street. But this time she is in such a rosy glow she hardly notices the other last-minute shoppers hurrying by, the street trio playing Christmas carols, the old gentleman who tries to sell her a holly wreath. It seems but seconds until she is back in the little furnished flat again. There's a sudden shock as the pier glass confronts her, this time accusingly. Now comes the moment of reckoning, as she gazes with dismay at the short ends of her hair. The rosy glow gives way to prudence and reason. Out comes the curling iron, on with the gas jet, as she sets to work repairing the ravages made by generosity and love. In 40 minutes, she finishes with the last curl lying tiny and close to her head, making her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. But to Della, gazing critically at herself in the pier glass, the result is anything but wonderful.
If Jim doesn't kill me first, you'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl.
But no more time for reflections, physical or mental. It's nearly 7, and Jim is never late. She sits nervously waiting for Jim. Now she hears his steps on the stair way down on the first flight. She has a habit of saying silent little prayers about the simplest everyday things. And now she whispers,
Please, God, make him not mind my hair so much. Make him think I'm still pretty.
The door opens, and Jim steps in and closes it. He has a smile of welcome on his face as he glances around the room for Della. But the smile freezes on his lips as he suddenly sees her sitting on the corner of the table. An expression comes into his eyes as immovable as a setter dog at the scent of quail. The expression terrifies Della, who is expecting anger, surprise, disapproval, or even horror. But not this look of... Della wriggles off the table and goes to him.
Jim, darling, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. And wait till you see the beautiful gift I got for you.
Della rattled on like that. But after she was all through, all Jim could ask laboriously was, You've cut off your hair. Della tried again, this time more patiently.
Sold, I tell you. Sold and gone, too. And it went for you, Jim. Maybe the hairs of my head were numbered. But nobody could ever count my love for you. Now, shall we have supper?
At last, Jim seemed to wake out of his trance. He enfolded Della in his arms. And then he carefully draws a package from his overcoat pocket and throws it on the table. Nimble fingers quickly tear open the string and paper. And then...
Oh, Jim, they're beautiful. How did you know they're what I've always wanted? No. My hair. My hair. Oh, Jim, how can I wear them?
There they lay. The combs. The set Della had worshipped for so long in an exclusive shop window. Pure tortoiseshell with jeweled rims. Just the shade to wear in the beautiful and vanished hair. They were expensive combs, Della knew. And her heart had craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now Della hugs them to her and looks up at Jim with dim eyes and a smile.
My hair grows so fast, Jim.
Then Della puts the combs down carefully, lovingly, and even more radiantly prepares to show Jim his gift. She holds it out to him eagerly on outstretched palm. The dull, precious metal gleams and glows, entirely satisfied with its own value.
Isn't it a beauty, Jim? You'll have to look at the time every 15 minutes now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks with the chain.
For answer, Jim sits down suddenly on the couch. Dell, he says, let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. I sold the watch to get money to buy your combs. Now, how about supper? The Magi, as you know, were wise men who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, these foolish ones were the wisest. They are the Magi. You have just heard O. Henry's Gift of the Magi, which was brought to you by your Coronet storyteller. The Gift of the Magi is just one of the many interesting stories and articles in the December issue of Coronet magazine. How much do you know about Christmas? Don't be too sure until you've taken the Merry Christmas quiz. in the December issue of Coronet magazine. How many reindeer does Santa Claus drive? What is the famous Christmas opera? What well-known actor plays the role of Old Scrooge on the radio? These are 3 of the 25 questions in the Coronet Merry Christmas quiz. And now, here is your Coronet storyteller with his postscript from the pages of Coronet magazine.
Be sure to join us next week, same time, same station, for another story from the pages of Coronet magazine. The Curse of the Barcarolle.
Remember, next week, The Curse of the Barcarolle, brought to you by the Coronet Storyteller on the Coronet Little Show. This is Mutual.
Coronet Magazine, a general interest digest type of magazine, published from October of 1936 to 1976. From 71 on, it was a little different. We don't know all the details of how the magazine basically ended. That last issue had Angie Dickinson on the cover. It was owned by Esquire magazine from 1936 to 1961. And of course, that sort of thing has... and they had a sister publication, Coronet Films, that produced information and for youngsters. Things such as fun of being thoughtful, dating do's and don'ts, and where does our meat come from? Coronet Films, I think everybody remembers that in their younger days, at least of my age, and I'm ancient. I thank the radio stations that carry this program, and I also thank their advertisers for making it possible. I have a web page at classicradio.stream. That's classicradio.stream. On many of these stations, we have another hour straight ahead. If you're with us, I look forward to the pleasure of your company. If you leave us at this time, may I please extend my warmest wishes for a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous 2023.